Good morning and welcome. Joining me on the stage is Brian Stradi, Group Finance Controller, Scottish Water. Welcome, Brian. Scottish Water is the only publicly owned water company in Great Britain. It provides 1.34 billion liters of drinking water, or in gallons, it's 365 gallons of drinking water daily. It takes away about quarter billion gallons of wastewater and touches the lives of people through this essential service. Next, we have Akash Khurana. Akash is Global Vice President, Chief Information Officer, Chief Digital Officer, McDermott. McDermott International Inc. has completed its combination with Chicago Bridge and Iron Company. It's now at $10 billion in annual revenues with 124 years of experience and history behind it. It has 40,000 employees globally. It has now created a fully integrated provider of technology, engineering, and construction solutions for the energy sector. Next, John Dunn, Vice President and Digital Supply Chain, GE Healthcare. GE Healthcare is $19 billion healthcare business of GE. It enables precision health in diagnostics, therapeutics, monitoring through intelligent devices, data analytics, applications, and services. Over 100 years of experience in healthcare industry and more than 50,000 employees globally. One fun fact, 17,000 babies are born every day using GE machines.
In the world.
Yeah, a round of applause for John.
Including my own. Including him.
In today's digital economy, companies have to adopt enterprise agility to continuously deliver value to their customers through continuous innovation. And this requires a mindset change from optimizing constraints, reducing costs, to a mindset of harnessing abundance. In today's world, there's abundance of data, abundance of ideas, abundance of capital, and what we call a business 4.0 era. In this context, it's easy for us to take aside examples of the digital natives, the companies that were born in the last couple of decades, like Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, et cetera. But these are the companies and businesses that have been around for hundreds of years. And they have also leveraged the technologies available today. We are in Oracle OpenWorld, so we'll be talking about Oracle technologies quite a bit. They have been able to leverage these technologies to navigate their organizations through digital transformation. Business 4.0 is a TCS thought leadership framework that helps our customers through their digital transformation journey. Digital transformation is essential for not only staying in business, but even of thinking of surviving in businesses. You have to be agile, you have to be intelligent, you have to adopt automation, and you have to get on cloud. So John, GE Healthcare is revolutionizing supply chain through touchless order. Please tell us about how you implemented that transformation in your company.
Yeah, sure. So, we, like many folks, realized that our customers were changing and expectations were changing. And things like the installation of an MRI machine, the expectations for that installation experience were expanding quickly. It is very different from some of our other products, like a radio isotope that gets injected into the human body. And so we had this complexity of our business model together with rising expectations of our customers. And a lot of our legacy systems just didn't have the flexibility that we needed to embrace these new customer expectations. They weren't talking to each other. And if you're familiar with digital thread and some of the other concepts, our order management wasn't really connected with our factories, who weren't really given the best forecast to some of our suppliers, all the way through to that installation to our own service teams. And with touchless order, what we did is we realized that we needed to change this. And so we invested in ourselves so that our internal competency around change management could improve. We deployed robotics. We employed a lot of different technology to connect all of our data and provide a ubiquitous flow of data from order all the way through to our suppliers in real time, all the way through to our installation. And with that, we were able to see some pretty incredible change. We went away from the big bang and started trying to get really finite with continuous integration so we could deploy things on a first monthly, then weekly, and then daily basis. And over time, we found that we kind of did a 5 or 6 month review, and we took a step back and realized that we'd changed $1 billion of supply chain and completely transformed it in under 5 months.
Wow.
And so we were excited.
Someone has said that culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Definitely.
You have implemented this massive transformation. So how did you handle the cultural aspects of change?
It was the most important thing that we faced, because all the technology in the world isn't any good if people don't use it. And so we focused on our culture, and we didn't come from a culture, I would say, of internal process speed. And we knew that was going to be the thing that we had to change. So we started with our funding model. We were traditionally a CapEx IT shop, and we said we can't operate with speed there. And so we got rid of doing that, and we went to operational funding. That didn't come free. We were treated like a startup, and we had to review every 6 weeks with our CEO and CFO, not just program product status. We threw that out. They wanted to see results, and at that kind of speed. So we had to do a lot of things. We threw out some of our project planning. We threw out a lot of our internal operating mechanisms, and we embraced true horizontal metrics. The only thing that I was measured on are some of these metrics like on-time delivery, and that became the North Star by which we evaluated all of our decisions and decided, is this going to help on-time delivery or not? And we got really focused on that. And the last tip, I would say, is that forced us to change the way that we made decisions. We had a culture, I think, that stewed on decisions a very, very long time. And this allowed us to challenge that culturally and say, the question we kept asking ourselves is, did I need to be involved in this decision making? And a lot of times we found that decisions were cropping up in the organization that could have been resolved, handled, and implemented at layers where it's closer to the action. And there were decisions that were getting made that maybe had side effects that people weren't counting on. And as we coached and talked about that as a team on a regular basis, we found that we were able to achieve levels of speed that we hadn't been able to before.
Wow, so top-down sponsorship and a very agile implementation. Well, talking of transformation, Akash, McDermott has combined with the Chicago Bridge and Iron Company, and now you're the leader in this segment. What role technology play in this integration to achieve your business objectives?
So at McDermott, technology has always been a core to our growth strategy, regardless of it is organic growth or inorganic growth. Speaking first of the organic growth, we were very, very bullish on leveraging digital technologies, reaching out to our customer with digital technologies, building products for our external customers, and also very bullish on leveraging cloud technologies, whether it's related to infrastructure or enterprise platforms, including ERP. So we are on a journey as first company in the EPCI sector. EPCI stands for Engineering, Procurement, Construction, and Installation. First company to embark on the journey of implementing ERP in cloud. Now, talking about the inorganic growth and the expansion, and as you mentioned, we just very recently completed our combination with Chicago Bridge and Iron. The company also goes by CB&I. And with that integration, technology became a core component of meeting the objectives. We laid out 4 key objectives that we wanted to achieve as a company. The first one was all about being agile and speed, time to market as it relates to integration. So when we started our integration, that was back in January of this year. And as a company, we took a very aggressive target of finishing that integration in 4 months. By May 10th, we were done. We were one company. And technology, especially around cloud, played a key role in helping us achieve that success. We went after all of our core processes from sourcing, supply chain, contracts, how we engage our ecosystem. We are a project-based company, so a lot of project operations we tackled as part of this technology as well, and also around financials, right? So for when you go through an integration like this, making sure that you're able to close the books, you are doing consolidation, planning, budgeting, et cetera. We leveraged cloud for all of that. So that was a big focus for us, getting that integration done within 4 months. Second objective for us was that we wanted to change how we run our business. We wanted to come up with a new business model. We didn't want to go just with the legacy McDermott or legacy CB&I. We wanted to truly create a new model which was highly matrixed and created a unique opportunity for us in how we run our company. Mm-hmm. And again, technology played a key role in helping us achieve that flexibility. Third focus was around the productivity and efficiency. And as we were going through that fast-paced integration, we wanted to make sure that we are tapping into the synergies, we are tapping into productivity, and we are bringing efficiency for our employee base. And again, technology played a key role in that. And the final element was, during this 4-month exercise, we were able to generate some new capabilities by leveraging these technologies in a more standard way. We leveraged analytics, built analytics, which are truly creating new value for our company. So I know, Akhilesh, you mentioned the 4.0 framework that TCS talks about. I think what we went through really aligns well with that framework, because you talk about agility, the time to market, and the speed associated with that, creating new business models, making sure that we are leveraging automation to drive productivity and efficiency for our company, and generating that exponential value by leveraging these technologies. And we were able to do that by leveraging cloud and other digital technologies just in 4 months.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Please share with us, what are the few challenges? I'm sure you had a whole list of challenges, but what are the few ones that you want to share with us?
So before I talk about the challenges, let me share a little bit about the opportunity that we saw as a company as we went through this integration. We are now one of the leaders in the engineering and construction space. We are able to execute at a global scale large, complex projects. These projects are the images that you see of offshore oil and gas field out in the middle of the ocean, large-scale LNG plants, petrochemical plants, refineries, et cetera. So this combination, we are very bullish about it, and we realize what we have created as a combined company. That comes with a lot of challenges as well, right? And those challenges first start with focusing on getting the day one of that combined company right. And that's where, as I mentioned earlier, the technology played a key role. Mm-hmm. And we acknowledged the work that is ahead of us, and we leveraged the technology in the right way to get our day one successfully completed. That was made into a huge achievement by the technology team. Second is around culture. I know you mentioned culture and the importance of it. A lot of integrations fail because the culture integration is not done right. And we know that. And as a company which runs on a very thin margin, it's a highly competitive landscape, we didn't want to take that chance. So we address culture right up front. We are investing heavily in building that new culture and making sure that our employees are really truly embracing that culture. Third challenge was, as you go through any merger or acquisition or any M&A activity, there's a lot of expectation of synergies. Mm-hmm. The savings, because now you are one company, your systems duplication goes away, your processes combine. So we tackled that as one of the key challenge for us as well. And again, technology played a key role in helping us deliver those synergies. And the last one, which I think is still in many ways work in progress for us, is the process, procedures, and getting systems all under one landscape. It's a long journey. Will take us about 2 to 3 years. We have a blueprint end state in mind, and team is working on that. But at the same time, while we are working on this shiny new enterprise architecture built on all great technologies, we still have to manage the existing landscapes of legacy McDermott, legacy CB&I. And at the same time, while we are working on this journey for 2 to 3 years, business does not stop. So we have to focus on getting that interim state right as well. So a lot of focus on getting that interim state stable, managing, enhancing existing landscapes while working on the end state landscape for the company. So those are a few of the challenges.
Well, thank you. A very impressive story. You have not only been able to combine these two companies, but also step up your digital game.
Yeah, it's still work in progress in many ways, but good successes so far.
Very good, very good. So with that, we come to Great Britain's only public sector water company, Scottish Water. So Brian, this is a very competitive market for you. So what's your take on the competition that you face in the industry in your area?
Yeah, we supply all the water and wastewater needs for the Scottish market. We don't have competition for the household market, as is in the rest of the United Kingdom. That's still a monopoly business. But Scotland was the first country in the UK to open its retail market for business customers, and that happened 10 years ago, believe it or not, 2008. And already that market has matured. We have about 30 plus licensed providers in the market, introducing new service expectations on us as the wholesaler. And that brings different challenges in itself. And key performance indicators that the Central Market Authority set for us to provide service to these licensed providers has driven a very different style of customer-related service for that business sector. The competition in the household market, and I call it competition because it's a kind of diluted route to competition, is the way that the robust economic regulatory environment in which we operate in overarches our business. The Water Energy Commission for Scotland is our economic regulator, and we have our two environmental regulators, the Drinking Water Quality Regulator and the Scottish Environment Protection Agency. So we've got a 3-to-1 marking for any of your sports fans out there. So it can get pretty intense. And because of our ownership model, if we don't get it right, the intensity comes in from MPs, MSPs, mailbags, if we let customers down. But going back mainly to that competition from the regulator, they benchmark our performance against many other utility companies. And they are the equivalent to what I would call as an institutional investor if we were a listed company. They drive and cap our tariffs, they set our operating costs, they set the size and financing of our regulatory capital program. So we have no other route to cash other than the government borrowing, which is relatively fixed, and our prices, which are capped by the regulator. So we have to, in order to prove service and provide additional services for customers, outperform that regulated contract. And therefore, to do that, we are continually looking for innovative ways to improve service to customers and that value for money challenge that comes from both segments of the market that I've outlined.
Well, thank you, Brian. I wanted to ask you a question about customer experience. You were sharing earlier that you've been able to redefine customer experience through technology. How has that helped you?
I think, like the rest of my colleagues on the stage here, we're on a transformation journey, and I would hate to think we've got quick wins. We're making headway, but like yourself, Kesha, it's 2-3 years in some parts of the business. But we needed a more robust and resilient platform, and the cloud gives us that. The move to the cloud wasn't an easy one. It was a difficult concept for many in the business to grasp and understand. But Scottish Water has relied on clouds for a long, long time, for different purposes. So I tried to convince people, along with the digital director, that another cloud's not going to make that much difference. I think, on a more serious note, the primary driver for us is how we maintain and improve that customer service experience. And we're doing quite well in the utility rankings, but we want to get to the top. And we see this as giving us flexibility in the offerings that we can give to customers. We want to increase first-time resolution for the services we provide when they do have problems with us. We want to get the bills accurate and more accurate so that we spend less time debating with licensed providers and alike. And I think the key temperature gauge to that, or thermometer to that, is the number of customer complaints that we get, and that is falling off a cliff face. And our customer experience scores are up around 22% in the last year and a half. So we're getting it right, and our cost to serve are coming down. We're the second lowest average household tariff in the UK. So we're pretty proud of that.
That's fantastic, given you're public.
Yeah, there's a myth that because we're publicly owned, we can't be commercial and we can't be challenge the operation of the business. It's quite contrary. I think, as I said, our regulator is equivalent to an institutional investor in my book. And I think many of the senior team and our non-exec directors are all from listed companies and had experience in listed companies, as I did before I started with Scottish Water.
Very good. You've already talked about it. Do you want to add something about how has cloud helped in this automation?
I think I'm a bit like a case. Sometimes before you go forward, you have to kind of explain where we were. And I think if I home in my area, the finance area, the finance systems were creaking at the seams, quite honestly. They were heavily customized. They were costly to run. They were time-consuming to maintain and manage. And that was low added value for a finance function to spend a lot of time, particularly at the month end, having to manage that and get our books closed so that we could give information to the management team. So I think the main journey for us was we don't want to make the same mistakes, and the project team came up with a great mantra, and it's something that I think is easier said than done. And the phrase was adopt and adapt. And what I mean by that is that we wanted to adopt vanilla processes within the ERP environment and adapt our processes to meet those. Now, that didn't go without challenge. Akesh was on about the culture in the business. We really had to challenge people to think how they would do things differently, because they were told there was no way we were going off vanilla. And I think proof in the pudding of that, although Release 13 in ERP wasn't a major upgrade, the fact that we have managed to keep it in vanilla, we did that upgrade over a weekend just a few weeks back with no impact on the front line of the business and therefore our customers. So that's living evidence that if you keep it vanilla, you can keep it refreshed and alive and purposeful. I think the other main benefit for me, our capital programme is about £4 billion in this regulatory period. That's roughly about £700 million sterling. That's real money, not dollars. And that's a big chunk of the Scottish economy, and the contracting businesses in Scotland rely on us getting that right and delivering as many outputs for that money as we can. So that really needed a whole look at standardizing the processes and governance around that, and the head of commercial cherry-picked an element of the P3M suite and went early on that to get that contract management flow system in place. So what I hear you cry, just more governance, as accountants like speaking about, but this was real working governance. as I referred to it. Because there was processes in place to track cost movements on projects and signing off changes in contract terms, when the projects were completed, we didn't have the usual bun fight with the contractors in the construction industry when we were trying to finalize the final accounts for those jobs, which I think in the early days, Scottish Water were seen as a soft touch because we didn't have confidence in our data to defend our arguments. Now, I'm watching a far more robust challenge to claims management with the construction industry. And we're now sitting there confident about our data, being able to make a fair and balanced view of any claims that come in. That's a good win. And if we can keep that track, that means we can keep the cost of the program down and deliver more outputs for customers. And that's a good thing to do.
Well, that's a fantastic story of a publicly owned, nationalized company delivering high-quality customer service at the second lowest cost, you said, right?
Yep.
Fantastic. So I wanted to ask John and Akash also the question about customer experience. So Brian mentioned about how they have been able to improve customer experience. What's your take on it?
For us, the biggest part was really being able to learn and experiment. And in this era of data, the cycle time of learning has to be collapsed. Mm-hmm. And it embraces all the technology that we were talking about, be it cloud, Internet of Things, data. The ability to capture, process data, and learn from it is what I think the big change is. And that's where measuring customer experience, I think in the past is maybe more challenging. Now today, you can start getting much higher quality data back. And putting that back in the hands of the engineers, the project management teams, the people touching customers on a regular basis, and seeing what we can learn. How do we get better? We just did an experiment, and maybe not instead of it taking 6, 9, 12 months in order to get feedback, can I start getting feedback in a day, 2 days? Those are big changes that I think maybe some of the more digital companies are used to, but trying to bring that culture back into some of the companies that have been around a while, I think, is one of the things that's really changing. And it can affect everything from the cycle time of our products, the logistics costs, all the way through to customer experience.
Very good. Akash?
So in our case, again, EPC as an industry is not known for technology. I mean, of course, we have years of experience and really good at foundational technology elements like.
I think you're one of the unique ones who have got a chief digital officer. Right?
That's right. That's right. So, and the work that we have been able to do as part of the whole EPCI life cycle, focused on the customer experience, we have been able to create a whole new business model, which is driven by digital technologies. Right? So. Before this initiative, and it's called Gemini in McDermott, for this initiative, we would work on this long cycle project, heavily involved, thousands of contractors, a very big ecosystem. And we would be handing over information in a very siloed manner. Data was very fragmented, and it was very reactive. So we put forward an initiative which we, as I mentioned, aligned with our digital footprint, and that opens the collaboration, that opens the transparency that we provide to our customers. Like I mentioned earlier, we are a project-based organization, so the more real-time information that we can give to our customer, it creates a very unique differentiator for us as a company. Projects get executed on time. You can manage risk more proactively, and at the same time, once that project is done, in addition to handing a physical facility, a physical asset to your customer, you're providing a digital twin of that asset, which now has full capability, full information built in of what has happened through that life cycle of the asset. But also customers can then use as they start to operate that asset. Now think about an offshore facility, offshore oil and gas rig. Having a digital twin of that asset allows you to do remote monitoring, allows you to do better predictive maintenance. You can focus on improving your production. A lot of benefits that come as part of that technology. And that's most interesting part of my role as a digital officer, as part of my IT role, I'm not only able to focus with the foundational technologies at the bottom line of the company, like, of course, the productivity, efficiency, creating new process capabilities, but at the same time, by leveraging these digital technologies, enable new revenue and impact the top line for the company. And that to me is very exciting and a whole different ballgame for us as an IT leaders.
Yeah, I think that's what we're seeing in today's business 4.0 world everywhere. The technology is moving from being a back office enabler to a means of getting to better revenue models. John, Brian, do you want to share some thoughts on that concept?
I think, yeah, I totally agree with that. I think gone is the day where the boffins sat in a separate building, weren't even part of the business, and the stock answer, the computer says no. They are an absolute invaluable enabler. I now see digital as the ally of the business to hit our objectives. And some living proof of that, just last week, we've been doing all our business plan refreshes to get us to the end of this regulatory period, which March 21 it ends. And there's some tough targets going in on across the whole Scottish Water environment. But the joy for me was to see the number of directors and management teams that were seeing digital as a key enabler to deliver their outcomes from their business plans and the stretched productivity targets that we've set for the remainder of the period. So they're absolutely in with the knitting of the business now and are going to be a key enabler in order for the business to function. So I don't see it as an IT function and the business. It's joined up completely.
I think that's a key part. I mean, as cycle times come down, so many of, I think IT process was built up in an era where risk management was a really big concern because the cycle time and the cost of doing things was so great. As costs are becoming more variabilized, the concept of this kind of arm's length distance between the digital or IT team and the quote unquote business is really merging. And the way I talk about it with my team is, don't talk to me about the business because we're a part of it. Digital is every bit as critical as any other function in the business in today's market. And I think as we started doing that, started realizing that actually it's pervasive in a lot of our cultures in big enterprises where people refer to, well, that's an order management problem or that's a sales problem. And the implication in these words that we use is that we can't solve it. And the reality is we're all working for the same company. And if you get together and talk about the real problems facilitated by business, by people in cross-functional teams, facilitated with digital technology, we can solve problems really fast today. And I think we miss that sometimes when we really erect barriers between ourselves and other people in the same company.
Very good. So I must thank you, John, Akash, and Brian, for elevating the discussion from just bare bones technology to strategic business, and how you have taken what is offered by Oracle and your other partners like ourselves to navigate through this digital transformation. Thank you very much for that enriching discussion.